mineral rights owner in Ridgely North County Association. I'm a retired chemical engineer and physicist. I served on the National Committee of the Philmont Staff Association for 2 years as a technical advisor responsible for reviewing gas drilling and production technology in the Rocky Mountains. Our committee convinced Congress to ban drilling in the Valle Vidal of the Carson National Forest in 2007. It'll never be drilled.
Thank you.
I've been studying the Barnett Shale development since the prospect of urban gas drilling became an issue in Fort Worth. Next slide, please. This slide shows how different the situation is today than the way it was at the beginning. Our Texas oil and gas laws are relics from the early days of oil. Here I've compared the differences between the relevant issues then and now. Today, industry wants to fully develop gas resources in urban settings where the population density is 2,333 per square mile. That's what we have here. Their plan for Fort Worth is to place about 7 drilling pads with 6 to 8 wells each on each page of the MapScope book. This is a MapScope book if you don't know what one is. There would be like 7 drilling pads on each page of that. Of course, they didn't talk about this at first. We're being stampeded into signing mineral leases as if the gas would escape if drilling and production doesn't begin immediately. The landmen neglected to tell owners and city council about a need for a massive network of gas gathering pipelines when they sold the city on supporting their drilling efforts. They only spoke of bonus money and royalties. Now we are seeing the dark underside of this business. Next slide, please. Now we have new problems. For today's boom, we are told that each drilling pad will need a 16-inch gas gathering line carrying a wet, raw, corrosive, unodorized, invisible, explosive gas of 150 to 200 pounds per square inch to a simple processing plant where it'll be dehydrated, compressed to about 1,200 psi, and then injected into a transmission line to transport to distant markets. Most of it won't end up here, if any of it. The gathering line right-of-way locations will be determined case by case and will be obtained by the drilling companies by negotiating with landowners using intimidation and the threat of eminent domain. In some cases, a 40-foot wide strip of lawn will be taken, and in others, the entire home will be taken. Our inappropriate state law grants gas companies the power of eminent domain in spite of the fact that the pipelines are a wholly owned subsidiary of a company using this power to make a profit. Next slide. So we have new dangers here. Here are some of the dangers associated with the gas gathering lines. The raw wet gas is odorless, tasteless, invisible, highly corrosive, explosive, and transported at 150 to 200 psi. This kind of gas has been known to eat through a new pipeline in 3.5 years. There is a pipeline CEO in the audience tonight who had exactly that situation. This kind of pipeline will be installed under lawns at 20 feet or so from homes. In Fort Worth, there will be a minimum of 1.2 miles of gathering line for each drilling pad. About 8.5 miles on each MapScope page in the book. Next slide. Statistically, using Texas Railroad Commission data, I have calculated that here in Fort Worth, there will be a significant incident inside the city every 7 months on the average for the duration of the production phase, perhaps 30 years more or less. Now, significant incident is an accident resulting in $50,000 of damage, loss of life, injury, mass evacuation, fire or explosion, and a couple of other little disasters that I don't quite recall at this moment. But they are a standard set of criteria for something to be a significant incident. And we'll have one on average every 7 months if they get 3,000 wells in Fort Worth. The second point on this slide gives you an indication of just how much energy is released when a gas gathering pipeline ruptures. A tire with 65 pounds per square inch that blows out and can blow off a man's hand. Next slide. The kind of gas that we have in the gathering pipelines is the most corrosive kind of natural gas there is. In 1937 in New London, Texas, this kind of gas caused an explosion in a school, killing 300 children and teachers. I'll show some pictures from that catastrophe in a minute. The second example on the slide hints at what could happen in somebody's front yard here. In Palo Pinto, there was a gas well explosion, a crater the size of a football field with a flash seen 100 miles away. Note that the gas under our front yards will be at a pressure that is 600 to 800 times the pressure of the gas that caused the New London school explosion. There's been no change in the chemistry that causes the corrosion of pipes since the 1937 disaster, and the statistics I mentioned a few moments ago are based on modern pipeline technology, not old technology. Next slide. Bringing it closer to home, this example happened in South Fort Worth suburb in 2006. 500 homes evacuated, someone died. Next slide. This particular pipeline explosion occurred in 1994 in Edison, New Jersey. And, the pipeline exploded and it blew, what you can't see very well here, but this looks kind of like Hiroshima. This is a building that was 1,848 feet away from the explosion, and it blew it completely away. These examples show that the Fort Worth Gas Drilling Ordinance has no basis whatever in objective safety considerations. The 600-foot setback, which is routinely waived, is completely arbitrary and doesn't even apply to the pipelines at all. Next slide. This is a picture of the New London School before the explosion. And next slide. You can't see this very well, but it's a nighttime picture of the school after the explosion. The very night of the explosion on March 18th, the whole school was devastated. Next page. This is a car. It is the American way. If there's any part of American Constitution that people really understand, it's the due process clause. Your house is your home, and your home is your castle. Protect amendment to the Constitution. The city and the state are allowing pirates to come in, seize your home or part of it for private profit, and place a ticking time bomb under your lawn at your home where you spend a third of your life. But the city and the state have rolled over and pleaded impotence. We can't do anything about it, they say. Next slide. While you were forced to give up your property and live next to a ticking time bomb, the gas drillers, the city council, the railroad commission, and the state government have absolutely zero liability for the disasters they are condemning us to suffer in the years to come. Next slide. So what do we do about this? I hope you won't just sit there and take this outrageous denial of your Fifth Amendment rights. There is something you can do. There are several things you can do, as a matter of fact. You can co-sign my letter that's going out to federal officials on the 1st of August. There are copies of it here with signature sheets, and a fellow named Charlie has got it. Charlie, would you raise your hand? It's back there at the back. You can sign that. You can join, also you can join the citizens, a group called Credo, or you can at least support them. They are recently formed, and their goal is to get a moratorium as quickly as possible in Fort Worth until we can figure out what we need to do. If you want to get more information on this as time goes by, there's going to be a joint session of the council and the gas drilling task force at Will Rogers on the 7th of August, and I urge you to be there in support of a moratorium. You need to be there at 11 o'clock, and if you want to get some information about that, please sign the email